lot of clarity. We need succinctness. We need to be on topic. We need a lot of things. But at its essence, clarity. Why? Why should we focus on kick-ass presentations as opposed to mediocre presentations? Reams and reams and reams of research will show that you have about 30 seconds to hook your audience. If you don't get them in 30 seconds, they're starting to drift off. I've covered this in prior presentations, but what we didn't get to the last time was how do we get there? And that's what I want to talk about today. Is how can we do some simple things, nothing really esoteric. How do we do some simple things that take our presentations up a notch? And everything I'm going to show you today, I'm talking about visuals, and everything I've done was done in PowerPoint. There was no funky graphics and no brain buster work. So now, great, Brian talking about mosquitoes. So if I wanted to talk about my experience over the weekend as I was out cutting back the verge in the garden, I might put up a slide like this, talking about gardening in Minnesota. Now, let's just look at this slide here for a minute. What I've got here, this is a symmetric slide. Okay, it's centered. There's some text up at the top. I've done slides like this a million times. It's okay. My picture is a little small. I've got a white border around it. That would be the frame. And that's not bad. I mean, you kind of get the sense of what's going on with the mosquito here and why this is a blood sport. But if I wanted to take this and kick it up a notch, I might do something like this, where I've actually taken the picture, I've expanded it, rotated it just a little bit, and this is what's called a full color bleed, where the picture actually goes right off the edge of the slide. This also is an example of asymmetric design, where instead of being centered and focused right in the middle, which is something as software people we all like, everything's got to be perfectly centered. It's like, no, actually, it's a little better if you're off center a little bit. Not just a little bit, but intentionally off center. Now, what I want to point out here is that if this is the PowerPoint slide frame that you see up here, the visual, all I did with this picture is I took this picture and it went like this. Basically, I made it bigger, a lot bigger, rotated it. You don't have to do anything funny to crop it or any kind of crazy manipulation of the picture. Just make it bigger. It'll hang off the side of the frame. And the visual PowerPoint frame area will give you this area right in here, and it will provide a natural crop. So the next thing I want to talk about is people and placement of text on slides. Generally speaking, when we present, we talk to people. We are all people, for the most part in this room. Our audience are people. We are wired through thousands and thousands of years of genetics to pay attention to people. If you walk into a room, and I have seen this in New York City, if you stand on a sidewalk and somebody's looking like this, what's the natural inclination? Everybody looks like this. The piece here is where your eyes go, where people's eyes are going, your eyes will tend to follow. If you are placing text on an image and your image has people, get the people to look at your message. Okay? If they're looking off in the other direction, your audience is looking off in the other direction. Just look at the difference between this picture on the slide and this one. This one is kind of expansive and drifts. This one tightens up just by doing a simple horizontal rotation on the picture. Let's just flip it around. Now, one other thing, very simple thing. I talked about this when I evaluated Vince's Pucha speech the other day, which is the rule of thirds. Rule of thirds says when you lay out your slides, throw a very simple 3x3 grid on your slides. The PowerPoints, not to be confused with PowerPoint, but the focal points are right over here where the lines intersect. You can use this as a layout grid for your slides. This gives you that asymmetric design. You want to put your words more or less at the intersection of the lines. Okay? And you can use that to actually generate some consistency throughout your presentation. You can get kind of crazy with this. You can do a 3 and 5. You can use a couple things depending on what you're trying to do. But just a very simple 3x3 grid will add a level of consistency to your slides because you can visually place the objects in the same approximate areas. You can move the words around. They can go from the upper right down to the lower left, and that's fine. We're just trying to hit the intersections. And finally, the last thing that we can all do when we are presenting is to talk with passion. Talk about things you care about. If you don't care about something, don't talk about it. Period. End of story. Somebody drags you in there kicking and screaming. It's like, either get excited about it, get passionate about it, or say, somebody else really needs to do this presentation. Because if you do not have interest in what you are talking about, all your preparation will be defenestrated, thrown out the window, and a total waste of time because you will lose your audience. If you don't care, they don't care. So with that, we've covered a little bit. And these are just very basic things. A lot of this information came from the series of books, Presentation Zen Design, and the book that I'm currently reading, which is Naked Presentation, which is basically connected with the audience. I highly recommend all three of those books, actually, by Gar Reynolds. Fantastic series of books. If you are presenting, it gives you a different philosophy and basis for presenting. And with that, I'll draw to a close and bring up our program. Thank you, Mr.